Hi everyone, Shannon here. Just a quick small disclaimer, I guess. I do make only family-friendly content. However, the subject of this video might not be suitable for the really young ones. However, feel free to preview this video, and if you think it's totally suitable, then parents, do what you like. So some of the subjects we are going to be discussing in this video are like I said, really little ones maybe should skip this one. So, just a quick disclaimer, do what you like, and I'll see you in the video in just a moment. Bye. Hello, welcome back to the Spoonie Stitcher channel. I'm Shannon the Spoonie Stitcher. You're inside the spooky stitchery. I'm so glad you're here today. Hi, if you're new, I'm Shannon. I'm the Spoonie Stitcher. A spoonie is somebody with a chronic illness, and a stitcher is somebody who stitches, but it's also a play on words because I am a spoonie. I have stitches all over my body, so I'm Spoonie Stitcher. Ha ha ha. Yes, so it has a double meaning. This channel is all about fun. This channel is about creativity. So I am like an art channel, a yarn channel, a Disney channel, basically an arts and creativity channel. I love to draw, bake, cook. I love to talk about movies. I'm very passionate about Broadway, classic film. I am a crochet designer and teacher. I have several courses here on my channel that you can go to the playlist and find them. I have beginner, so if you've never tried crochet in your life, you don't even know where to start, I got a playlist for that. If you want to try amigurumi and you're like, oh, I don't know about that, I got you covered. And we walk you very slowly through the whole process. So if you want to join me, please do. I hope to see you in the comment section. Okay. You're here for the Decade Divas. Oh, we've been working on this all year. So this is very exciting that it's finally here. And if you don't know what the Decade Divas is, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis. But if you want to know everything and how you can participate too, I will link the video down below where I explain everything. But the Decade Divas was based off of the October Opals, which is what Teresa, Ashley, and I started last year, which is people who were born in October decided to get together and crochet stuff. We found 3 of us. There's more, but that's how many we found at the time. So we called ourselves the October Opals, and we did like a spirit week last year, and that was a bit much for us, so we decided to do it week by week, and then we decided we needed more people. So we got more people to join us this year, and they weren't all born in October, so October Opals had to go, and Decade Divas was born. So we all chose a decade to host. This week's host is K&K Crochet. First of all, if you've not checked out their channel, they're phenomenal, wonderful ladies, mother-daughter team, love it. And they are the hosts for the 1920s. Remember to check out K&K Crochet and all the other Decade Divas who made their videos today. So, 1920s, Prohibition, Great Depression, speakeasies, jazz, flappers, girls with the bob cut. So lots of things to think about for the 1920s. But if you know me at all, there's something I absolutely love. Film. How many films were made in the 20s? Not many. But how many films were based in the 20s? Quite a few. However, I also love Broadway. And Broadway and film, when they come together, can be wonderful or tragic. If you know, you know. But there's some films that do exceptionally well, both with the time period they are trying to mimic and the film itself. What film is super famous for the 20s? There's a great story that takes place during the 20s. Do you know it? It takes place during the jazz era. There are a lot of themes in this story. Love, fame, betrayal, adultery, greed, and murder. No, not that story. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 8. Did you say Chicago? Yes. Chicago was a huge success in the film industry. It was a musical that won Best Picture of the Year in 2002. A musical had not won Best Picture in over 34 years. It was a true phenomenon. It did not win just Best Picture. It actually got 6 Oscars that year. Best Sound Editing and Art Direction, Best Supporting Role, and of course, my personal favorite, Best Costume Design. Colleen Atwood, of course. Her costumes are just beyond real. I love them so much. We're going to talk about costumes, don't worry. For those of you who like my costume analysis type videos, we're getting to it. So if you didn't know, the musical is actually based on a play of the same name, written by Maureen Watkins. Maureen Watkins started out as a journalist for the Chicago Tribune, and she would write sensationalist pieces back in the 20s. And she found out about 2 cases that truly fascinated her and upset her, so she wrote a satirical play based on what was going on. That's right, Chicago is based on a true story. Kinda. The plot of the story, if you don't know, is Roxy Hart, a young housewife, dreams of being a star. All she wants to be is a star. She wants to be on the stage. She meets Fred Casely, who promises her that he knows people that can get her on stage and all kinds of stuff. So she has an affair with him. And he told her a big fat lie, and they had a big fight, and she shot him. A few times. And then her husband came home, and she had to explain to Amos what happened. So she said that a prowler came in and, attacked her. So the police come, and they don't believe her. They arrest her. In jail, she meets several women. But most importantly, probably the captain of Murderous Row is the notorious Velma Kelly. Gorgeous. And vicious. Her crime is that she murdered her husband and her sister. Well, allegedly. Of course, because this is Murderous Row. Billy Flynn, a showman of a lawyer, which is the point. This is satire after all. So, we have our characters. Velma, Roxy, Billy, Amos. Oh, I almost forgot. One of my favorite characters, Mama Morton. Matron Mama Morton. She's the matron of Murderous Row, and you're good to her, she's good to you. She helps the girls out in her own way. And that's basically the plot. Maureen Watkins wrote the play Chicago in 1926. Later on in the 20s, it was turned into a silent film. And then in 1942, it was turned into a movie with the same kind of theme based on one of the characters, Roxy Hart. In fact, the movie was called Roxy Hart, starring the fabulous Ginger Rogers. Several years later, the dancer, actress, and fabulous singer Gwen Verdon saw the play, saw the movie, was really interested in the character of Roxy Hart, and she asked her husband, Bob Fosse, if he would basically get the rights to Chicago for her so she could play Roxy Hart. And he tried. Over and over he tried, and Maureen was not having it. She did not want her play turned into a musical. So she said no. In 1969, Maureen Watkins died, and the rights to Chicago went to her estate. And finally, Bob Fosse was able to acquire those rights. And that's how we got the 1975 spectacular Chicago. The 1975 cast starred Gwen Verdon as Roxy Hart, Cheetah Rivera as Velma Kelly, and Jerry Orbach, yes, Lumiere, as Billy Flynn. Due to the popularity of the O.J. Simpson trial, in the 90s, the revival of Chicago was even more popular than the 1975 version. This starred Anne Rankin as Roxy Hart, Bebe Neuwirth as Velma Kelly, Joel Grey as Amos Hart, and Fred Ebb as Billy Flynn. On a personal note, this is one of the best albums ever. In 2002, Rob Marshall thought it was a great idea for a movie. So they gathered some of the greatest stars ever and made one heck of a musical, a movie musical. Only one problem. In the play, the musical numbers are done quite differently because it's all fluid. However, in a movie, it would be quite jarring to just stop the movie for a musical number. They didn't quite work with each other. So how do you make this a musical? You take your main character and make her a daydreamer. And now everything she sees is like being on the stage, because that is her biggest dream. We'll get back to the movie and the history of this wonderful story in just a moment, but I'm guessing you want to see what I made, since this is a crafting collab. Well, I couldn't make a Broadway bear, because first of all, I wasn't technically doing the Broadway show, I was doing the movie musical. And I just didn't have time to make anything really big. And as much as I would absolutely love to crochet either Velma Kelly or Roxy Hart's original costume on something, yeah, I couldn't do that in the amount of time I had. So I went small. I made a bitty bear. This is my pattern. Is she not cute? She's just a 20s flapper girl. She probably worked in a nightclub with Velma Kelly. So the bear is my pattern, but these eyes I got from Cassandra at Craftably Ever After. I followed her tutorial and oh my gosh, they're so pretty. This one looks much better than this one. I messed up this one, but from far away you can't tell. I will link Cassandra's tutorial down below because everybody should try this on their amigurumi. It's so cute. I'm definitely doing it again. I need more practice, obviously, but it's so cute, right? And I did actually crochet her dress. I crocheted a base to put this beautiful trim on top of. I just didn't feel like doing lots and lots of fringe. Plus, I couldn't find any yarn that was shiny enough, so. This is just trim that I wrapped around and around, so it looked like layers of a dress, and it's also trim on her headband. So, she's just a little flapper bear. Very, very 20s, very kind of basic, but she's cute, right? So that's what I made. Back to our story. So I told you that Maureen Watkins was a journalist for the Chicago Tribune. And she was in charge of basically finding out all the gossip in Murderous Row of the Cook County Jail. Yeah, it's a real place. It's not just in the musical. She met two prisoners there that fascinated her. And that's exactly who Roxy Hart and Velma Kelly are based off of. That's right. If you didn't know, Chicago is not a true story, but it is based off of true cases and people, including the lawyer. He's based off the 2 lawyers that the women used. Would you like to know a little bit more about that? I thought so. Beulah May Annan. Beulah May Annan is who Roxy Hart's character is based off of. Beulah May Annan had an affair with a man named Harry Kalstead. They met while she was a kind of a secretary at a laundry place. She was married at the time to Albert Annan, a mechanic. Sound familiar? So the story is that one night at the Annans' home, Beulah and Harry had, had relations, and they got into an argument afterwards. Apparently it got very heated, and somehow there was a firearm nearby, and, well, it went off. When her husband got home, she tried to explain that he is a prowler and that he attacked her and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's what her husband decides to tell the cops. He decides to try and take the blame for her until things just start not adding up. So on April 3rd, 1924, they arrest her. According to Beulah, yes, her next story, is that they had a very heated argument and they both reached for the gun. Quote, direct quote. So famous a quote, don't you know a song that goes like that? You should. It's very famous right now. Everybody's doing the dance from Chicago on all the social medias to that song. So, yeah, such a famous line, they turned it into a song. According to journalist Maureen Watkins, the story she actually got was that Beulah shot Harry, waited to make sure he was dead, and turned on jazz music and started drinking while she waited, then called her husband, upset that she'd just been attacked. Her husband arrives home and the rest of the story's the same. Does that sound like self-defense to you? Beulah retained the attorney W.W. O'Brien, and boy was he slimy. He decided to convince Beulah to say she was pregnant, and that's what she and Harry were fighting over, the baby. So of course she had to protect herself because he was going to kill her and her unborn child. Just like Amos in the story, Annan's husband stood by her as well the whole time. He decided there had to be another reason that his wife would do this. There had to be another part of the story. Oh, there was, but he didn't know it. May 25th, 1924, Beulah is acquitted. And a day later, after being acquitted, she left her husband. So, poor guy. Then again, you could also say he escaped. Belva Gardner. That's who the character Velma Kelly is based off of. Belva Gardner was known as, quote, the most stylish of Murderous Row, according to Watkins. She really was a cabaret singer, but she didn't murder her husband and her sister. Instead, she murdered married father of 2, Walter Law. March 11th, 1924, Law is found inside Gardner's car, in the driver's seat, with a revolver and a partially used bottle of alcohol in the front seat with him. When they went to Belva's apartment, she had bloody clothes everywhere, and she said she blacked out and she couldn't remember a thing. Kind of makes me think of the line, "It wasn't until I washed the blood off my hands I even knew they were dead." So Belva Gardner, too, grabbed a wonderful lawyer, William Scott Stewart. And they convinced the jury in June of 1924 that Law took his own life. I don't know. But that's what the story is. According to Belva Gardner, no woman could ever love a man enough to kill him. Okay, that's her story. So back in the 20s, the juries were made of all men. Belva and Beulah knew this. They were also very smart, and they decided to start kind of a beauty school inside Murderous Row. Don't know how they got the supplies. Oh wait, yes I do. Matron Mama Morton was based off of somebody too, but we don't know her name. However, she got you stuff. Whatever you needed, As long as you could pay, she got you stuff. So they made themselves pretty, they got a whole new makeover, and they showed their knees, batted their eyes, cried at the correct moments. Oh boy, did those boys fall for it. No wonder those ladies got acquitted. Meanwhile, also in 1924, Sabella Natini was an Italian immigrant, and she was actually innocent. She was accused of killing her husband, but she didn't. She was the first woman in Cook County Jail to ever be sentenced to death. Thankfully, she got a retrial because of a wonderful lawyer, and thankfully, she did not hang. Whew! And she was reprieved. There's a character in the story that is Hungarian, and she never speaks English in any version. In the movie, she's portrayed as a beautiful ballerina in Roxy's mind. Her character also claims her innocence, especially in the song Cell Block Tango, one of my personal favorites, and she is clearly based on Sabella Natini. So in 2002, they made a movie. Oh my goodness, they put their heart and soul into this film. So here are some really fun facts about the movie Chicago. It starred Renee Zellweger, Catherine Zeta-Jones, John C. Reilly, Richard Gere, Queen Latifah, and a host of others, including a cameo by Lucy Liu. Oh my goodness, this film was just fabulous. It's one of my favorites. I love it. It's so well done. They really, really took the heart and soul of Bob Fosse's version of this story and made it their own, but they still treasured what it was, especially in the costumes. And we're going to get to costumes in just a moment because, I mean, hello, it did win Best Costume. First of all, every actor I just mentioned did everything. They sang, they danced, and they acted all by themselves. There are no doubles in this entire movie. In fact, Catherine Zeta-Jones fought to get the bob haircut so that there would be no long hair to shield her face and have any doubt that she was doing her own singing and dancing. Smart. Also, she looks super cute with that bob. I'm just saying. They found out secrets of each actor, like Richard Gere had been in a play, and John C. Reilly was great at singing, and Catherine Zeta-Jones, of course, had musical experience, so they used her almost as Renee Zellweger's teacher. She helped her to learn how to sing and dance, and secretly, Renee Zellweger could sing, but even she didn't know it. But she really wanted to try out for this part, so she did, and I think she nailed it. Rob Marshall did too. He said she sang just a few notes for him, and he was ready to hire her. Richard Gere had never tap danced in his life, yet there's a huge tap number that he has to do by himself. He worked hours tirelessly just to learn to tap dance for that number. And he's doing all the tap dancing, shadows or not, like I said, no doubles. Bravo, man. The sets and the costumes were designed to make sure that the musical numbers stood out. So that means that no set pieces could get in the way of the dancers, and all the costumes had to be made so they could move easily. Very, very important, and I'm so glad that everybody was on board making sure that could happen. You ready? Okay. Costumes! Colleen Atwood designed the costumes for this, and if you don't know, I'm a huge Colleen Atwood fan, and I don't apologize for it. She makes the most smart decisions when it comes to dressing an actor and designing the piece. It's just so beautiful. One wonderful example of this is, even though the pieces in this film are not like the costumes in the musical, they did sort of pay homage to the original costumes designed by the fabulous William Ivy Long, love him, in the number Cell Block Tango. That's why the women are all in black and lacy and slinky. In the original 1975 production of Chicago, you can see that the costumes were very period appropriate, and they had lots of color. very distracting type costumes, and some of them went a little over the top in my opinion as well. In the 90s, Chicago decided to have a revival thanks to the popularity of the O.J. Simpson trial. It did very well, but they needed new costumes. They wanted something different, and they hired William Ivey Long to create this very different kind of look. I am sporting a very Roxy Hart type look. She always had the long sleeves, she had the lace, she had the little kind of bustier type top, and a really short little midi skirt. Velma Kelly had a very sleek look and really high cutoffs near the arm. Matron Mama Morton was usually in a suit. However, when she would bend down or she would, lean certain ways, you could see that there was a pretty little lacy little undershirt underneath. So, she was like a little bit sexy. The point of these costumes was to show sexiness because it was supposed to be hot, and women were supposed to be taking control, both taking control of the situation, the story, and their bodies. So the costumes for the stage musical are very lacy or short or very sleek. Something that, makes you want to look at the actor, basically. However, they are not distracting. William Ivey Long was very, very methodical in deciding that everybody's going to be in black. Even Roxy. Everybody's going to be in black because we are not going to distract from the wonderful dancing and singing and the acting. So we don't want to take away from that. The sets are super simple, so are the costumes. But if you look very closely, each costume perfectly represents each character. Also, Roxy Hart is the only one to get a costume change. Well, for a motion picture, everybody gets a costume change because it's a movie. So, Cell Block Tango, it looks a lot like the stage musical. In fact, the set for that also looks like a stage musical, which is perfect because if you remember what I said at the beginning, everything is in Roxy Hart's mind. She sees everything as a stage production. Clever. So for the film, Colleen decided that Roxy would have two very dramatic looks. Her first look, her reality look, which she actually dresses in, all the colors are very light, possibly even very skin tone, very meek, because she's very meek and fragile and scared. She's scared. She's terrified that something's going to happen. At first, she doesn't even have Billy Flynn as a lawyer, so she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know if she's going to get off. She doesn't know if she's going to die. It's very, very scary. So her colors are very mild and blending into her own skin kind of thing. However, in her fantasies, she wears lots of flash and sequins, and it's always flashy. So, but she's never in red because red is Velma's color. Well, technically black is, but she wears a lot of red. Her kimono has red in it. Her little dance number dress has red in it. Even in Roxy's fantasies, Velma's in red. I don't know if that was to tell the audience the whole time, this woman is very, very, very guilty because red is like blood and she has blood on her hands, or if it was just a color theory kind of thing, like it's a power color, so she's in control of her life, her situation, and she feels like nothing can stop her. I'm not sure. But I do know that Colleen Atwood said that she put her in a lot of black to show that she was very bold. She's very bold, very confident, and so black is like her power color. But she does wear a lot of red, and I would have liked to have known why she chose red, but she never said. Amos is in a lot of sweaters because he is a very meek man. Billy is, of course, in a suit after a suit after a suit. My favorite would be Razzle Dazzle because it is a rhinestone-covered suit, and it looks fabulous on him. Mama Morton got to do her own little number, When You're Good to Mama, so she actually got to wear a gorgeous dress, not just a suit. And it's one of the best costumes in the movie. Tell me I'm wrong. Right? Yeah. My theory, because Colleen Atwood is so good at making sure that colors and fabrics represent the characters, I would guess that the silk-like fabric and the color gold are on Mama Morton. Yes, the colors look great on her. However, I think it represents greed. Normally greed is green, I agree, but, you know, they had gold coins back then. I think it represents greed. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Tell me down below. So the whole point of the musical is to show a glimpse into the court system in the 20s and how women use their feminine wiles and lawyers use their tactics in order to basically let the guilty go free. How do they do that? Well, I don't want to spoil the musical for you, so go watch it. So why is a story like this so popular? What makes a bunch of women that kill and get away with it such a sensationalist piece? What makes everybody want to see this? Because for some reason, our culture seems to celebrate criminals. Look at the shows that are super popular. All the crime dramas that are out there. There are so many people who love true crime. It fascinates us. Why? I don't know, but that story sells. Plus the satirical aspect of the courtroom and everything, that's always entertaining as well. Whew, this was a long one. I hope you guys liked the whole analysis and history of the show Chicago. I love the musical. I love the movie. I'm so happy it got Best Picture. That hasn't happened again. So let's make it happen again. Like maybe Wicked? Huh? It could happen. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to check out K&K Crochet and all the other Decade Divas who made their videos today. What else did people do for the 1920s? Pretty sure I'm the only one who went with Chicago, but you never know. Thank you so much for being here today. Remember to come back next Wednesday for the next decade. I believe it's the 1940s. What will we do then? Remember, life happens, yarn helps, and spoonies can stitch it up too. Bye.